So, I gotta mention something before we begin. Look at user CatAnova over here making way too much sense. In fact, they're right. I probably should have added that in, actually. Chances were, given how quickly Sasuke adapts and the nature and way that Guy and Lee push themselves, Sasuke would have likely felt the need to try and catch up, which probably actually would have left Sasuke able to get around Gaara's sand shield. In fact, I'd almost be willing to say that Sasuke by this point would be able to utilize a couple of the 8 gates. Maybe not as many as Lee, but at least enough to bolster his speed, and that would likely make him fast and strong enough to at the very least do the same thing he did in his battle against Gaara. So, that being said, yeah, Sasuke would have won that, but all things considered, I've already set the continuity that dictates Sasuke lose, so it's a bit too late to go in and fix that. But yeah, kudos. If I could go back and do it all over again, I'd take this advice. But anyway, let's get into the video. But first, welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Hinata sat with her legs crossed. She was in the middle of a deep meditation. Her father was nearby. He was walking around her, keeping an eye on her chakra flow. Neji was also near, watching from the porch. Hanabi was watching from the corner too. One of the maidservants came and took Hanabi by the hand and led her away. Naruto was walking through the compound. He was wearing the same type of clothes an average Hyuga would wear. You see, after he was taken in by the Hyuga, it was let slip that Naruto was actually the son of the 4th Hokage. The entire village had found this out. Somehow, the rumor began when a shinobi who really shouldn't have been working on files was working on files after the death of Hiruzen and the installment of Danzo as next Hokage. That was a very confusing time for everyone. But basically, the information broke. First, it was spread between workplace comrades, then among friends at bars, and finally it made it to the gossip rags. Everyone was talking about it, and instead of simply denying it, Danzo decided to declassify. Naruto was living with the Hyuga clan now anyway, so they could properly protect him, and given how nervous the village was about the sudden change of leadership, now seemed to be the best time to mention the progeny of the 4th Hokage. Yes, indeed, this was all part of Danzo's master plan. His taking over the seat of Hokage was not without contention. Many critics of the Anbu had arisen, attempting to pull up conspiracies that existed in the Leaf, and those conspiracies were true, though Danzo and everyone else continually discounted them as false. For a time, this worked, but gaslighting the populace could only work for so long. Eventually, the proof Danzo continued denying would stack up and overpower him, so he needed to shift attention to a new news story. With the media now enthralled in something a little more exciting, Danzo could skate by without a hitch. This, of course, dumped a bunch of responsibility on the Hyuga clan, as now the compound was often surrounded and contacted by various news organizations and reporters who wanted to interview them, wanted to interview Naruto, wanted to get the scoop of a lifetime. But no, Hiyashi never allowed them in. Frankly, he had been quite upset about this, as his once quiet and peaceful compound was now turned into a news media bug zapper, drawing in reporters like moths to a flame. But Danzo had continued to assure him that it was a blessing and honor to care for the late Lord 4th's son. This all shook Naruto as well. He had gone from being an orphan nobody to son of the Hokage. He was popular now, and his dream of being Hokage, once laughed at, was now revered as if it were already divinely ordained. That being said, his temporary guest status in the Hyuga compound had been revoked and replaced with permanent honorary family member. This was good, of course. None of this were innately bad for Naruto, but it was just the sudden lore dump of history he had never known now revealed. Naruto had found himself studying about his parents to learn who they were, and now found himself missing people he had never even met. He had been studying it for the last couple years now. Recently, his fire had picked up again when he was gifted the old journal of his father. He had studied it for days, working over the jutsu, reverse engineering the Rasengan from just the diagrams and explanations in the pages. He was working hard, trying to complete what his father had believed existed beyond the Rasengan. Naruto had stumbled into a whole family of jutsu that could overshadow many other hidden techniques. All of that possibility and his constant effort to make the Rasengan work had left him tired. He had to have a break, and that break had led him here. And now, as he walked along the awning-covered porchway, he was witnessing this strange meditation. "What's going on?" he asked Neji. "Lady Hinata is doing very important training. Please avoid making too much fuss." Naruto looked between Hinata and Neji. "But what is she actually doing?" Neji sighed. He stepped closer to Naruto so they could talk without distracting Hinata. "Lady Hinata is in the process of attempting to control her tailed beast, the nine-tailed demon fox." Naruto was surprised. "Wait, what? She has what inside of her?" Neji quickly covered Naruto's mouth, and Hiyashi shot them an angry look. Be quiet, you fool, Neji said through a strained whisper. Wait, you said she... Neji took a deep breath and sighed. Years ago, the nine-tailed demon fox escaped its Jinchuriki and began wrecking the village. As it left death and destruction in its wake, it began heading for the Hyuga clan compound. During that time, Lord Hiyashi attempted to slow it and eventually defeated the mastermind behind it, but my father sealed half of the Nine-Tails inside of Hinata. Naruto is shocked. Wow, I would have never guessed. The other half is in me, Neji said. Naruto looked over. What? Neji covered his mouth as Hiyashi gave them another death stare. Neji looked over. You dolt, shut up. How long have we all known each other and even lived in the same compound? 2 years, and you still can't remember that we're Jinchuriki. Neji had not noticed Hiyashi's approach. Hiyashi standing behind him, this was the makings of a Prowler theme meme. Neji turned back to see the veins in Hiyashi's temples bulging. He was either very angry or using both Byakugan to count the number of ways he could end Neji's life. Perhaps both. During all of this, Hiyashi spoke with a very silent and calm voice. If you two wish to have a conversation, I ask that you please do so out of earshot of my daughter. You may have had no issue gaining control over your tailed beast, Neji, but your cousin is. Please respect her efforts and the time we're putting into this. Neji flew into about 10 different bows of apology, a blast of movement that lasted about 3 seconds in total. Yes, Lord Hiyashi. Of course, Lord Hiyashi. Forgive me, Lord Hiyashi. Hiyashi slowly turned away, walking back toward Hinata. Despite having his back turned, Neji could still feel the cold and wrathful stare piercing through him like a wooden spike. Neji rose back up, keeping his head lowered as to not look at Hiyashi for fear that he might die if Hiyashi made eye contact. Neji turned to Naruto and whispered, "Follow me." Naruto walked with Neji into another room and closed the door enough to drown out their voices, but left it cracked just enough so the two could still see what was going on. Neji, now having regained his composure, spoke. Lady Hinata is struggling to control her tailed beast. She's trying, however. The issue lies in the way the beast was split. My version of the Nine-Tails is actually quite agreeable. It's likely that it's the kinder half of it. That means Lady Hinata was stuck with the more agitated and hateful half. I can only console her for her struggles. If at all possible, I would have preferred her to have my version and I hers. I could have willed the beast to follow my orders. But Hinata, she has about as much willpower as a used napkin. What her training boils down to now is an attempt to ensure that she at least will never end up a slave to her beast, because that is a possibility. In emotionally unstable states, her beast's chakra begins to spill out, and when it does, she becomes a puppet. More than once, she nearly killed Hanabi in a fit of rage. Naruto was astounded. Hinata did? Neji nodded. That's why this training is so important. Hinata is trying to learn proper control. She's trying to learn to shelve her emotions for a moment just to reinforce the seal on the Nine-Tails. There's no guarantee that anyone will be there to stop the Nine-Tails from getting out should she lose control. The first and last line of defense for her is herself. Naruto nodded. I understand. Enough about that though, Neji said. Tell me more about your training. Naruto trailed off, giving Neji a good view of what was going on. The Rasengan is complicated from what I've seen. It requires not only chakra volume, but chakra control, as well as shape manipulation. The good news is that at least one of those is the specialty of the Hyuga. I would suggest studying proper control. It could help you figure out what you're doing. How do I better control it? Naruto asked. Neji thought about it. Remember your training, the leaf exercise. Focus. Focus your chakra to a single point and increase pressure and keep it there. For the most part, Hyuga have the innate ability to mold chakra from any place on their bodies, not just the hands and feet. So to us, such feats are natural. But to you, I can understand it being really intense. It boils down to concentration and practice. Practice until you can't concentrate any longer. Then take a break and rest your mind. Then try again. Naruto nodded. Thank you, Neji. He then stood and began making his way back to his room. There he pored over his books and continued to try over and over again, well into the night. Despite this, nothing was happening. Naruto fell back on his bed. Ugh, nothing's working, he said to himself. He looked up and toward the outside of the window. Dad, why couldn't you have invented an easier technique? Suddenly, a new voice sounded in the room. Because if he invented an easy technique, anyone would be able to use it and it wouldn't be special. Naruto looked up and saw a stranger he had never met before. He entered a defensive position. Who are you? He demanded. All he could see was the rough outline of a shadow and a single red ruby glow behind. The man stepped forward. He wore a cloak and an orange swirling mask. No enemy of yours. Naruto was still in a defensive position. That's what an enemy of mine would say. The man let off a chuckle. Smart. I like you. He then reached for his mask and removed it to show a man with a scarred visage. Naruto slightly cringed at the sight but regained his composure. Obito noticed this but felt no ill will toward Naruto. After all, every day when he woke up, he looked into the mirror and cringed himself. "Who are you?" Naruto asked. "My name is Obito Uchiha." Naruto stopped for a moment. "Wait, that name. I know that name. I'm pretty sure I read it in my father's journal. You would be my father's student then, right?" Obito nodded. "Former student. I was wounded, taken in by a man who had me brainwashed, but after he passed it all to me and set me out into the world, I changed my mind." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. Obito began recounting the story of how he began to build a group designed to capture all-tailed beasts and use them to end war as a concept. "I was more than willing to kill for this goal, but on the day you were born, I was planning to steal your mother's tailed beast. But upon seeing her cradling you beside Minato, I called back to my past and realized I just didn't have it in me to turn on the two people I once treated like my own parents. I first planned to stall, but after a year I decided I didn't want to do this anymore, and I attempted to destroy the group I helped form, only to be ousted by one of the people I had called a comrade. Now the group is too strong for me to defeat. That's why I came to you." Naruto was a little nervous and confused. A part of him was furious. It was believed that a secret military organization was behind the death of his mother and the release of the Nine Tails, but now it was corroborated by this man, meaning that he was partially responsible for the death of his mother. "So you're the one who started the machine, huh? Why should I trust you?" Obito stood there for a moment, thinking. "You honestly shouldn't. I wouldn't trust me. If you were a member of my father's team, then that makes you Kakashi's teammate, the same one that he mourns by the Monument of Fallen Heroes," Naruto said. Obito looked down. "Yeah, that would be me." "Then why, after all these years, are you showing up now? And why are you talking to me? Why not Kakashi?" Obito sat down on Naruto's bed and began thinking. "I decided to start moving because the group that killed your mother has decided to start moving. They're capturing tailed beasts, and that means that your friend Hinata is in danger. Truth be known, I could have simply told Kakashi and been done with it, but..." "But what?" Naruto asked. "I wanted to see you," Obito said. Naruto was confused. "Me?" Obito nodded. "I wanted to see you. The last time I did, you were just an infant. Maybe it's so I could feel like I'm back with my friends again. Then why not go to Kakashi? He actually knows who you are. I don't." Obito nodded in agreement. "That is true, but I just..." He looked up. "I don't know if I can face Kakashi after everything. I want to feel like I'm whole again, but I'm still broken. And so I ask that you personally keep my true identity a secret. For all intents and purposes, my name is Toby. If you ever need to refer to me by any name in front of anyone, call me Toby." Naruto sat down, feeling more comfortable with the situation. "All right then, Toby. Why are you here?" Obito then spoke. "To warn you, a man with eyes far more impressive than mine is going to be coming for Hinata. Very soon. Some call him a god of destruction. He views himself as a god of creation. Me, I see him trying to destroy the old world order and replace it with a new one, making him both. Either way, he's coming, and he will destroy this place. I can't stand to see my village destroyed, and I can't stand to see the last surviving heir to my mentor's legacy perish, so I'm offering ample forewarning. Be prepared." Naruto nodded. "Thank you." Obito stood and prepared to leave. He stopped when something caught his eye. "Oh, are you studying the Rasengan?" he asked, pointing toward the journal. Naruto cautiously nodded. "I'm having a hard time getting the shape manipulation and chakra control down." Obito nodded. "You need the proper visualization." Obito then held out his hand and displayed a perfect Rasengan. Naruto was astounded. "How did you do that?" Obito began to explain. "When I was learning to do this, I struggled the same way as you. Then, I had an epiphany. A Rasengan is like a neutron star." "A what?" Naruto asked. "A neutron star," Obito said. He then began to explain. "It's a star with great mass, like our sun, but it's compressed down so small that they're nearly 72,000 times smaller. Neutron stars are among the densest proven structures in our universe, and I took inspiration from them when making my own. Basically, I pressurized my Rasengan, which means I've mixed forcing as much chakra in as possible, without letting it go past a certain limit. I've tried that, but it makes a weird shape," Naruto says. Obito smiled. "That's where the next principle of neutron stars come in. They spin very fast. When I begin making a Rasengan, I begin by swirling my chakra in the direction it naturally wants to go, and I do so quickly. That way, the more chakra I add, the denser I can make it, and it continues to spin faster and faster. By doing that, it will actually help you keep the chakra in the shape of a sphere. So as you make one, just start spinning your chakra as fast as humanly possible, all while making the orb as dense as you can without breaking it past the shell you've made. Do these things and it should form into a perfect Rasengan that's strong enough to pack a real punch." Naruto thought about it. "Huh, I never thought about it like that before. Thanks. Obito smiled. It was my pleasure. If you need me, I'm just around the corner. I'll let you know if anything changes. And with that, Obito teleported away with his Kamui. Naruto would then attempt the technique that Obito had told him about and managed to perfect his Rasengan. Smiling, he knew that he had broken through and made a lot of progress, but that wouldn't be the end of his father's techniques. There were many ways it could be added upon and improved, and Naruto knew that he would be spending the next few years studying different chakra natures to add to it. But in the meanwhile, he needed to tell Hiyashi what he had been told. He told Hiyashi about the imminent threat, and about the mysterious masked man who Naruto simply referred to as Tobi. Hiyashi would be concerned about this, but even more felt he needed to inform the Hokage, so he took Naruto to see Danzo. There, Naruto would begin explaining what he had learned. Danzo listened intently with concern and skepticism. This man, Tobi, came into your room with news of a threat to the life of Hinata Hyuga. How did he substantiate these claims? Danzo asked. Naruto then began to explain that Tobi had told him things about his own birth that nobody could have known. He further mentioned that Tobi knew about the secret mastermind behind the Nine Tails release, and further stated that soon a particular group would begin to steal tailed beasts from all over the world, and that the man leading the group would possess eyes that would make him a god of destruction. Danzo looked up at Hiyashi after hearing that. He sounds like he's speaking of the Rinnegan, Hiyashi said. Danzo nodded. Naruto, you know that if you're lying, you'll not only dishonor yourself, but your parents and the Hyuga clan, correct? Naruto nodded. I understand. These aren't lies, they're the truth. Danzo sat silent for a moment. Fine then. I'll be sure to carefully keep our greatest warriors in the leaf for the time being. But you must not tell anyone else about this. If it gets out, there could be a panic. And worse still, word might reach any interested parties and cause a disturbance in the geopolitical field. And if our adversaries discover that we know about their plot, then they might also change it up to throw us off. Naruto nodded in understanding. I'll keep it quiet, sir. Good. You may go. Naruto would get up and exit the room with Hiyashi. Together they'd return home, where Naruto would see Hinata meditating again, this time with Neji. She seemed to be growing concerned and agitated. I just can't do it, Neji, she said. I try and nothing works. I can barely keep it under control when I'm not in an emotional state, let alone when I am. I'm sure you'll get the hang of it sometime, Lady Hinata. You just gotta keep at it. She stood up. I think I need a break. Neji understood. I'll be in the main house. If you need me, do not be afraid to come and get me. Neji stood and proceeded to enter the building. Hiyashi would leave Naruto alone and would enter the house himself. Naruto would watch them go and then turn his gaze to Hinata, who was standing by a koi pond. Naruto walked over. How's it going? He asked. She sighed. Not well, Naruto. Every time I go into my mind, it's everything I can do to just keep that monster locked away. It rages at me. It manipulates my emotions. It's learned how to make me mad without my consent. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Naruto's hand slowly reached out and took hers, his fingers interlocking with hers. It's okay, he said with a gentle voice. She shook her head. No, Naruto, it's not. We've been talking about planning a future together. I don't know if that future will ever be able to come to pass. What do you mean? Naruto asked. She looked down. The ease with which I get angry now, the ease with which the monster starts coming out of me, I can't control it. Even now, I'm resisting my darkest emotions. I'm getting upset at nothing. I can't control it. I'm a ticking time bomb. I'll get myself and everyone around me killed. Naruto shook his head. That's not true and you know it. She didn't respond. He turned to face her. Hey, listen to me, Hinata. That's not true. She looked over at him. His eyes held a sort of gentleness to them. A sort of nature that told her that he was more concerned for her than for himself. You and I are gonna be together. That's what I want. Whether you can learn to control that beast or not, you and I are going to be together. She looked down. What if I kill you? What if I get you killed? Naruto smiled joyously. I'd rather die happy than live miserable. I want you, Hinata, and if I have to die for that, I'll do so gruesomely and happily. Just don't stop believing in us. She blushed a little bit. Her heart was aflame. It burned deeply in her chest with the rage she didn't feel any other time but when she was with him. He leaned in and she met him halfway. They kissed. The start of an audible laugh could be heard as Neji quickly muffled the mouth of the pointing Hanabi, pulling her inside. Even if he hadn't though, it seemed doubtful that Hanabi could ruin this moment. How long they kissed, Naruto didn't know. He felt as if he had completely lost touch with time. It could have been a few seconds or a few decades for all he cared. He was filled with bliss. Sailing along an alabaster beach on a sea made of crystal, bathed in the warm yellow sunlight of a slowly setting sun. Pulling back, the two stood, their faces red and flustered. Naruto began smiling awkwardly. Here, try this. He offered her his father's journal. She gasped. "No, Naruto, I can't take this. You need this to study your family heritage." Naruto shook his head. "Nah, I've already read through it enough. I even managed to finish recreating my father's Rasengan. I've got other things to work on now. You should read this. It has some input on my mother. She was the previous Jinchuriki before you, and unlike you, she had to deal with the whole beast, not just 50% of it. See if you can't glean any information from this that might help you out with your own training." She took the book from him and looked it over in her hands. He put his hand on her shoulder. "You'll figure it out. All you need to do is take the time to do it." He then turned around and began to walk away. As he did so, she looked down at the book. She turned around and walked to her room. Sitting on the bed, she began to flip through the pages. She was searching for anything to do with Minato's wife, anything at all. To be frank, the book might as well have been titled Kushina as much as he'd written about her. This made searching for answers all the more difficult. She decided she'd have to read through all of it, beginning to end. As she did so, it became very obvious to her. This man loved his wife. With every page, he found a new way to describe her, a new way to view her through his eyes, seeing not only the surface, but the deepness of her. The inner layers, which after examination gave new context to the outside. With every page turned, it made it sound like he was married to a brand new woman. "A rose of many thorns," he once said in regards to her appearance after they had had a bit of a verbal altercation that apparently Minato had lost. "A tomato of sweet fragrance." He spoke of her looks the day after when she, unable to wait any longer, rushed to him to make up for the night before. A cardinal singing the most beautiful melodies. The story behind this one was funny actually, as it spoke of a night where Kushina had a bit too much sake at Hiruzen's house and launched herself into a bout of karaoke, all before puking up everything she had eaten halfway home. Something Minato said reminded him of a bird feeding her babies. Hinata had not laughed so hard as he had at that one. For the most part, a man was never as deep as this. Not to what Hinata had understood. While a man could be every bit as deep as a woman, it almost seemed a rare thing. Men were oftentimes animalistic in their desires, primal, seeking only what they naturally desired. Men would fight for any reason over territory, girls, food. It was natural to them. Their desire for women seemed only based in the physical, likely intent to spread their seed among as many a healthy vessel as could produce strong offspring. And yet, sometimes, rarely, they broke out of the ready-made shell. They escaped the confines of what their bodies said they wanted to have and into the spiritual realm of what they needed to have. And when they surrendered to that, realizing they weren't animals, they were real flesh and blood men who did not just stand at the top of the food chain, but transcended it. They could be as beautiful as anything else, as admirable and deserving of love as any woman. A certain tenderness to them that made them seem more like a woman. Not that what Hinata was proposing in her head removed the masculinity from Minato. No, what she meant was that it made him seem more relatable. Like women and men were two totally different creatures based on their physical makeup. Just as women could be consumed by vanity, men also could, but the definition of vanity differed between them based upon their desires. When they could set aside themselves for a moment, to give to the other in a way that broke the natural order, in a way that prioritized not the physical, but the emotional, there was something there. A certain something that showed that there was more to their desire for the other. Something more than just the need to procreate. These two were best friends, relying upon each other for everything, being pleased and happy with each other, with or without children or the process of making one, yet their joy still modified by it. Their desire for Naruto wasn't one of selfishness, it was one of giving the deepest part of themselves to the other freely, without holding anything back, without hiding anything, without lying, truly becoming a single person in two equally important ways, mind and soul. Anyone could become one in body with another, but to have their very hearts, the cores of their being beat the same, that was something worth having. That was a love worth having. For years they lived and died for each other, and on the day their lives came to an end, Hinata wondered if it made much of a difference to them. In life, they were one, and without the other, they were both as dead. So to die with one another was to live again in a new world. It astounded her. It amazed her. And now she realized what she wanted most with Naruto. And it was through this introspection into the secret life of the fourth Hokage, a side of the mountainous face that she was one of the few blessed to witness, that she understood. Minato spelled it out flatly. The only way to overcome the hatred of the Ninetales is through love. Words Kushina had once said. Words Minato had once believed. Words they had put into action, and words that had produced the perseverance required to drown out the Ninetales. Love enough to bury the hatred. Victory over the heart. Victory over the demon fox. This is what she needed to combat it with: love. Her fear of hurting Naruto caused her to push away, which in turn gave the fox power. But now she was going to run toward him, and in doing so, watch the Ninetales grasp on her heart collapse. The next morning, she awoke with the journal on her face. She got out of bed and ran to him. "Naruto, I know how to control the Ninetales." "You do?" Naruto asked. She handed him the book. He looked down at it and then back up. "What did you learn?" He felt her arms wrap around his neck as her lips pressed against his. Pulling back, she spoke. "I need you to meditate with me." "You want me to meditate with you?" Naruto asked. Hinata nodded. "Yes, I need you to meditate with me. It's what Kushina and Minato did in the journal. If you do, I think I can finally control it." Naruto smiled, and so he decided to do just that. The two would meditate, and Hinata would begin making great strides in her training. Not only did she eventually manage to silence the Ninetales and keep it from affecting her in her day-to-day life, but she even began learning to wrest control from it to the point that she could confidently utilize its power without its consent. After a few lessons from Neji, Hinata eventually mastered it and became a fully realized Jinchuriki. All the while, things in the world slowly began to change. It started when Gaara was kidnapped. He eventually would be found dead. Nobody was sure what exactly killed him, though Danzo began to believe it was the removal of his tailed beast. Was this the start? Eventually, other tailed beasts began disappearing. That was when Danzo knew that the time Naruto predicted was growing closer. Danzo began calling shinobi back to the village. Having done so, he simply waited for the day that Konoha would get their turn. Naruto and Hinata were enjoying their day in the village, spending time together as a couple of dating kids tended to do. A little ice cream, maybe a shared milkshake, a movie, and a stroll about the marketplace, doing a little window shopping. Naruto and Hinata were enjoying their days together, with Naruto pretty much forgetting that there was a threat at all. That was until it happened. The village came under attack. Pain and his six paths appeared, and they weren't alone. The entirety of the Akatsuki was here this time, all of them ready to sack the village. As it turns out, they had discovered Obito and his tricks, and because of that, they knew Konoha was prepared for Pain, so Pain thought it best to overwhelm them with the rest of the Akatsuki. Hidan and Kakazu, Deidara and Sasori, Kisame and Pain, along with the 5 other avatars of Nagato. All together, these elite missing nin all entered the village and set about searching for the Ninetales. Hinata looked over at Naruto in terror. "Someone's gotta tell the Hokage." Naruto, unable to take his eyes off of Pain, spoke to her. "The Hokage already knows. We gotta deal with this now." Naruto rushed off into battle. Hinata followed after, only to be stopped. "What is it?" she asked. Naruto pointed to the Hyuga clan compound. "You need to leave. They're here for the Ninetales. If you attack, you risk them ganging up on you and taking it. You'll die if that happens." "But if you go alone, you'll die," she shouted. "Better me than you." She shook her head. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying with you and you can't stop me." Naruto grunted and growled as if he wanted to strangle her before falling into laughter. "You're too awesome, you know that, right? I guess we go together then." The two of them raced through the village until they found Pain. He was hovering just about 2 feet from the ground. He looked up and saw them. "Oh, hello. Have you come to surrender?" he asked. "No, we came to kick your ass," Naruto responded. Pain closed his eyes and let out a sigh. "Shame. You could have had such a bright future. Listen, I'm here for the Ninetales. Nobody needs to die. Deliver it to me and I will leave your village. Defy me and I'll show you why I'm called a god of destruction." Hinata popped her neck. "If you want it, you're gonna have to come and take it." She activated her Ninetales chakra mode. This caught Pain off guard, yet it pleased him. "You possess the Ninetales. That's good. Now I have confirmation that the beast is still in the village." The 3 of them entered battle, 2 against 1. Pain was assaulted by Hinata, who utilized the incredible strength of the Ninetales to push him back. Naruto attempted to come in from behind with a Rasengan. Pain would utilize Almighty Push to knock Naruto away, sending him into a nearby building. "Naruto!" Hinata cried as she saw him break through the wall. She added even more ferocity to her attacks. Pain felt his feet sliding across the ground. Seeing Naruto getting up, the faint glow of his Rasengan in his hand, Pain knew he had to make a move. He quickly sidestepped and then grabbed Hinata by her neck before smashing her into the ground. He lifted her up as Naruto came in with an attack. Pain turned around with Hinata in his hand. He used her to catch the Rasengan Naruto was pushing toward her. He then kicked Naruto back and threw Hinata at him. Naruto skidded along the ground and hit the wall hard. He then attempted to cushion Hinata's fall with his own body, a feat that admittedly wrecked him a bit. He lay there for a moment, just grunting in pain. "Naruto, are you all right?" He lay there for a moment. "Peachy." She stood. "You rest here. I got this." Naruto sorta just rolled over a little. It wasn't like he was in much condition to argue. Hinata approached, her body burning with the orange flames of the chakra cloak. Her pure white eyes were fixated on Pain. The veins beside her eyes began to bulge as she began looking in on a deeper level. She could see that his chakra system was not flowing the same as a normal person's. In fact, a good bit of his chakra points weren't even in use at all, and the chakra well that was supposed to be at the center of his stomach was no longer burning, yet he somehow possessed chakra. How? She noticed that many of the piercings in his body were glowing brightly with chakra, and there seemed to be a subtle yet bright stream of chakra flowing above him from an unknown location. "What are you?" she asked. Without expressing any emotion, he spoke. "I am what the world made me. A ghost of the past, a specter of a noble idea." "That makes no sense. Speak like a normal person, you creep," she shouted as she enshrouded her hands in chakra to activate the twin lions. She rushed forward. The issue with this guy having limited chakra that came from somewhere else was that it was a bit harder to replace it once gone. She began striking out at Pain, her hands gnawing away at his chakra, greatly weakening him. As she did this, she noticed that his piercings began to grow brighter in the vision of her Byakugan. These piercings were a tool, which explained their strange design. She was led to believe that whatever she was facing wasn't truly alive due to its lack of personal chakra, but that something from a distance was controlling it. That meant that all she needed to do was interrupt the transmission. Getting closer, she began striking out at its body before attempting to grab at one of the piercings to pull it out, only for Pain to go on the defensive and push her away. Naruto managed to get up. "What's up, Hinata?" Hinata then spoke. "My gentle fist technique isn't gonna cut it. His body isn't like other people's, and even if I shut down his tenketsu, there's no guarantee that he'll stop working. If anything, he's more like a puppet than a person." "That's freaky," Naruto said. Pain stood there. "It is fine. I need not capture you to take the Nine Tails for myself. Even if you die, I can stand to wait a few years for it to reform." He began hovering in the air and proceeded to utilize Chibaku Tensei. He formed the massive spheroid structure in his hands. He launched it down toward the ground. As it came crashing down, Naruto knew that it would level the village. "I think I can destroy it," he said, "but I might need your help. I haven't found a way to make this technique work yet." Hinata agreed to help him do it. "Good. What I need you to do is help me make and stabilize a giant Rasengan." She began helping him do that. As she poured the chakra in, he began forming a larger Rasengan that she was helping to stabilize with her chakra. Naruto then began to utilize wind release within it. This formed a massive Rasen Shuriken. As it was formed, Hinata was pushed back by the gust of wind, which almost felt like it was cutting her. In fact, it was. This technique was so powerful that even Naruto was hurt by it. Without a moment to spare, Naruto threw the Rasengan up, letting out a cry as his arm was shredded by the wind release. It fell to his side as he held it, blood dripping out. The entire right side of Naruto's body was covered in lacerations, and he could barely move. The Rasen Shuriken went up, carved right through the surface of the Chibaku Tensei, and then detonated in its core, causing the whole thing to explode. A thick dust cloud covered the sky as it disintegrated, but it was still too early to celebrate as Pain was still up there. Suddenly, multiple chakra rods came down and struck Naruto, pinning him to the ground. Hinata cried out for him. She began running to him only to be knocked back by a descending Pain. Pain landed by Naruto and looked down upon him. He then looked over at Hinata. He saw the terror in their eyes as they looked to each other. It clicked. Ah, love. Love can set one free, or become a chain that holds one back. Let's see what yours is, Pain said as he formed a chakra rod in his hand. He then pressed the rod into Naruto's back. Hinata screamed for him. "Naruto!" Pain pushed the rod deeper. Blood spurt from the wound as Naruto grimaced. Pain let out a sigh. He then formed multiple rods above Naruto and threw them down into him. Naruto's body arched as the rods pierced him. His breathing heavy, eyes growing dim, he reached his hands out in Hinata's direction, as if she could touch him. Hinata stood. "How dare you hurt Naruto?" She felt a darkness well up deep within her as her teeth grew out as fangs. The lines on her cheeks extended out further and thicker, and her hands became like claws. She rushed forward with reckless abandon and began swiping at Pain. Pain dodged left and right. "That's good. Be consumed in your pain." He knocked her back against the wall. As she fell forward, she looked to Naruto. His breathing had quickened. He could barely open his eyes. He spoke. "Please, don't lose control. Control is power." Hinata took a deep breath and forcefully reined in Kurama. She kept the strength for herself, but locked the beast away. She stepped forward and re-entered the battle. She knew she couldn't overpower Pain, but there was something she could do. She waited for the perfect opening. She then supercharged her hands with not only her own chakra, but the Nine Tails too. She struck out at Pain, hitting his chakra rods. As her fingers made contact with them, she forced her own chakra inside, densely, and then commanded it to expand, shattering the rods from within. The more she shattered, the weaker he became, until eventually there were no rods left in his body. At that, the body was barely able to stand anymore. Those rods were antennae for something bigger, and with them now out of the way, the body fell back and returned to a death-like state. The battle was over. The rest of Konoha seemed to have got the better of the Akatsuki as well. Hinata rushed over to Naruto and removed the rods. "Naruto?" she asked. "Naruto!" She rolled him over, but there was no response. She listened for a pulse, but heard none. She attempted CPR, but nothing worked. He was gone. She almost felt the Ninetales escape, but somehow she held on. "Not yet, Ninetales. I'm not finished yet," she said. She stood and used her Byakugan to follow the trail to a tree where she opened the front and stepped inside. There, she was surprised to find a man, maimed and unable to move. There was a woman there, too, a guard. The man waved the woman off and told her not to attack. He then spoke. "I suppose you've come here to kill me." Hinata stood there. She certainly wanted to, but then she remembered what Naruto had said about control. If she gave in here and killed this man, how good it would feel. However, it would just be the darkness the Ninetales needed to break loose. Not that Hinata cared. Naruto was dead, and for all intents and purposes, so was she. But as she thought about it, if she gave the Ninetales its freedom, everyone in Konoha would pay the price. She took out Minato's journal that she had read with Naruto's blessing. She tossed it to the ground. The man was confused. The woman picked up the journal and delivered it to Pain. He took it and began to read it through. He looked up at Hinata. That man was Naruto's father, and Naruto was exactly like him. Naruto made me feel like Minato made Kushina feel, and you took him away from me for no reason. We were happy. We were in love, and you killed it. You might as well have killed me. You wanted me to know pain. I'm dead inside now. I can't feel anything anymore. You did that to me. All I really wanted was a chance at love, and you destroyed that. Now I don't want anything. Was this what you really wanted? To hurt me just to hurt me? No, I wanted to teach you what war brings, in hopes that you'll never choose it again, Pain said. Hinata scoffed. You think I want war? I wanted love. Now I do want war. I want to kill, specifically you. I want to kill and be killed because the man I loved most in this world was destroyed by you. All I want is to destroy you in the most egregious and inhumane way a human can muster. You're wrong with the way you think. Pain doesn't make people hate war, it drives them to vengeance. It makes them crave war. I assume you're going to kill me then, Pain asked. Hinata shook her head. No, I'm not. I really wish I could, but the moment I end your life, the Ninetales inside of me will escape. I'm barely holding it together here. If I kill you, and it escapes, the people of the village will suffer. I can't kill you. Nagato thought about this and continued to read through the journal. Your friend Naruto was like this? She nodded. Better even. Pain closed the book with a sigh. He looked to Conan. Our time is already come and gone. Whether we live or die, the Akatsuki are at an end. Perhaps it's time to try a new answer, he said. He put his hands together. Perhaps it's time we choose love. As he poured chakra into this technique, the skies lit up as the souls of those who passed on were returned to the world. Hinata was confused as to what was going on. Nagato would look at her as his hair turned white. You have a second chance. Don't waste it. He then perished. Elsewhere in the village, Naruto too felt his soul return to him. He gasped as he rolled over. What happened? As he rose to his knees, he looked off and saw Hinata running toward him. He would get up and run after her where he'd hug her. The two would share a kiss. I was so scared I lost you, she said. It's okay, I'm right here. In the time after, the village began to rebuild. Naruto and Hinata's relationship grew even deeper as they continued to share their time. And eventually, after a few years, the two would be married. It was during this marriage that Hinata experienced the same thing that Kushina did, and through their mutual love, Kurama was held under control, and instead, a new life was created within her. A hope for the future. A future they would face together. And that's the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought to myself that if Obito had refused to kill Kushina, then maybe his heart wasn't as darkened as one thought. This resulted in the idea that he might try to assist Naruto instead of working against him. In the end, though, the most helpful thing they had was Minato's journal. It was from the wisdom gleaned from a past generation that answers to their problems could be found. But anyway, what did you think about this chapter? Did you like it? If so, what was your favorite part? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified about our latest videos as they come out. And if you can't wait for that, then check out these other videos to whet your appetite until they eventually do drop. Thanks for watching. Peace out.